This is not a fun topic to talk about. Hey y'all, it's Morgan and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about my worst pain and symptom flare. Yay! This flare happened over a year ago and I was completely undiagnosed at the time, but I have since been diagnosed and treated for adenomyosis and pelvic adhesions. I'm still having some pain issues though since that surgery, so there may be still some underlying conditions that need to be diagnosed. But at the time of the flare, I was pretty sure that it was endometriosis or adenomyosis or something like that going on. I just hadn't seen a doctor yet. I have a playlist where I talk more about my surgery and recovery and how I'm doing, and I'm going to continue adding to that playlist as time goes by and as I continue to figure out what the heck is going on with my body. So be sure to check that out after this video if you're interested in that. I'll link it down below. Okay, so let's set the scene for the flare. It is September 2021. But for a bit more context, let's rewind a little bit and go over the months before that. So in spring 2021, we started looking for a house, hoping to move in by mid-June, which was when our lease on our apartment was up. And by the time we had started looking for houses, I'd been having my pain, symptoms, issues for a while and had been losing weight and was not able to do most things because of pain and exhaustion. Searching for a house was really rough on me because it involved leaving the house for a few hours at a time, and that was difficult because of my nausea and vomiting. For example, when we visited the house that we ended up getting in like early June, we saw the house, it was great, and then after we left, we had to pull over in what would be our future grocery store parking lot, and I puked. Very memorable. So we found the house that we were gonna buy in early June, and we closed in July, but we weren't able to move in until September because the previous family was waiting to close on their new home, and it made things a lot smoother if we just let them live in the house for the next month. But it was very difficult for us. This meant that my husband, myself, and our 2 cats had to figure out where we were gonna be living for the next 2.5 months. So we moved nearly all of our stuff into a storage unit and started living in an Airbnb, which was a small basement studio living space. And it was not ideal. Zach stayed there for a month, but me and the cats only lasted about 2 weeks before we packed up and went to stay with my parents in West Virginia. And that summer, my back pain was reaching new heights. I mostly just laid on the couch in agony, not eating, just kind of hibernating until it was time to move into the house. That was about a month and a half. No, that was 2 months. And I was living off Swedish fish and orange juice at the time because that was the only thing that I could regularly keep down. And it had sugar in it, so, you know, it was feeding my brain a little bit. And you may be asking yourself, why has this girl not seen a doctor yet? I'll tell you. My symptoms and stuff really started getting bad enough to see a doctor around the time the pandemic started. And nobody was going to doctors unless you absolutely had to. And even in like early 2021, people really still weren't going to doctors unless you had to. And this was like a chronic buildup of pain. This wasn't just like a thing that happened overnight and I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. It started kind of smaller and built up and it fluctuated and it cycled, which is how I connected it to my uterus. By the time we realized we were gonna be moving, I just decided that I was gonna wait to see a doctor until we moved because I waited this long. What was a few more months gonna be? It ended up being more months than I thought because we moved in September. And I didn't want to see a doctor until we moved and got settled because I was barely keeping up with the stuff I needed to get done as a human and as an adult. And like just adding in and trying to figure out doctors at that point was just too much. So I was waiting until we moved to do that. And based on my symptoms, my research, and my family history, I suspected endometriosis and adenomyosis might be causing my problems, or at least some of them. And so I wanted to see an endometriosis specialist because a lot of times that stuff can get missed by a regular gynecologist. Eventually, I want to make a video about all of the signs and symptoms that led me to see an endometriosis specialist, but for now we'll just stick to this flare. Okay, back to the flare story. So the days leading up to it, my pain was high, my nausea was high, but I was managing. I was trying to preserve my energy where I could because I knew that moving was just gonna be a lot. So when we were packing up and stuff, I was careful to not overdo it. I'd let other people lift things, and I just tried to like help more mentally, which, you know, I wasn't eating, so I don't know how much help I was actually giving mentally, but I was there. But basically in the days leading up, I was preserving my energy for this 6 hours of traveling and the moving. And then the day arrives to travel. It takes me a bit to get settled in the morning and like wake up and stuff, so it was easier to not leave first thing in the morning. So we started later in the day, and we ended up arriving to the house at almost midnight the night before we moved in, but we were getting the keys and everything that night, so it was all good. Except it wasn't all good. So we make it here, and I've made it, you know, I'm managing, just barely keeping it together. But then we arrive to the house, and it is a complete disaster of dirt and grime and ickiness. I was just in shock because I've only ever moved into apartments that are like pretty clean when you move in. Like you just give them a once over with some disinfectant and like vacuum and like you're good. This was from a family with 5 kids and at least 4 animals. I will let you imagine the filth. But here's a hint. There was a lot of flies. That was the tipping point. I could not handle it. The previous owners had had some unforeseen issues moving out and were not able to clean as planned. And I get it, stuff happens. But this was just like a whole huge beast that I was not prepared for. And is also going to be relevant to the story later. So now it's moving day, but the dirt plus the overwhelming task of moving has tipped my nervous system and body over the edge. I could not stop puking long enough to tell anybody where to put anything, and it was such a struggle to get through the day. And it was a long day, ending with some twin mattresses on the dirty floor, and me getting up several times to, you guessed it, you know, puke. The next few days were a lot like that, but I don't remember much because I mentally checked out after we were done moving. But let's just say my husband was not having a very good time with the chaos of moving and me being extremely sick. And then a week or two go by and I'm weak, but I'm slowly recovering. The house is still a mess because I'm too tired and Zach is too busy. And there is too much house to clean, and we're just doing our best to get by. That is until one of our cats starts itching and scratching. She's really curious and definitely made her way to all the dirtiest spots. And she even made her way into the attic because the previous owner's movers accidentally took it. They brought it back, but not before she found out and made her way up there. And we had been planning on giving her a bath at some point. We thought it might be allergies or something, but we just hadn't gotten around to it yet. But upon further investigation, I discovered fleas on our indoor-only cats. One of which was a rescue from a hoarding situation where she had flea dermatitis and was like half bald from it. Yeah, so I started panicking a bit and was like, she needs a bath right now. But Zach was in bed. He had work the next day. Then there were a couple friends coming for a wedding that they were all in. And so like he was just not going to be able to help me do this. And so I was like, I gotta do it. So I put her in this like kitty bath bag, which is like a drawstring bag, and it kind of helps restrain them a little bit. And it worked for the first half. And then the second half, there was a lot more wrangling, kitty wrangling and movement and stuff to try to get the job done, and I caused a flare the second time. Except this time, it was worse. Yay! I'm not sure if it was because of how weakened I was from the first flare just a couple weeks earlier or what, but this is the closest that I ever came to going to the ER. I've never felt so miserable and weak and helpless from days of just throwing up like nothing. And like, I know I was in a lot of pain then, but like I just can't really remember it. Like I remember just when I was awake, I was watching Scooby-Doo. And yeah, but like I've like blocked out like what it actually felt like at this point. Eventually, V8 and ginger ale and applesauce and suckers brought me back to life. But if I had like lasted another day in the condition that I was, like I was going to the emergency room. Like I don't know that Zach has ever been so scared from seeing me so sick. Recovering from those flares was really slow. I lost a lot of weight rapidly in September and continued to lose weight at a pretty alarming rate through the rest of 2021, and then in early 2022 I discovered that Nutella and either peanut butter or sunflower butter worked well, and chips and ice cream, and I could tolerate those in small amounts, and they were pretty high calorie food, so even though I wasn't eating that much quantity, I was getting enough calories to stop losing weight. At my lowest, I was 110 pounds, and I was not trying to lose weight, and I have not been 110 pounds since I was like 12 years old. My main goal was just to stop losing weight, because the more weight I lost, the more pain I was in. I was really weak and struggled to get stronger because I couldn't eat enough. The back pain never really went away. It fluctuates even now, between annoying and debilitating. After the flares, I was scheduled to see an endometriosis specialist in January 2022, and in the meantime, I went to see a regular OBGYN in that October, and she didn't seem too concerned with the stuff that I was dealing with until she felt on like physical exam, like she touched somewhere that caused pain, and she was like, oh, I guess we should have that looked at. And she ordered some ultrasounds and they came back clear. And she was like, okay, all good. And I was like, clearly I'm not all good. I mean, I did like try to tell her the story of the flare that I have just told you guys about, but about in like 2 seconds. So anyways, she wasn't interested in exploring more. So I was just kind of waiting it out until my appointment in January, trying to not cause any flares, just trying to like hibernate and chill and like wait it out. But the week of my specialist appointment, it got canceled because of COVID. And that was really devastating because I had been waiting months for this appointment. But I ended up seeing a different specialist in April 2022, and she agreed that endometriosis and adenomyosis seemed to be causing some of my problems, and she agreed to do the diagnosis and excision surgery as well as a hysterectomy, and that's what happened in July. And I have a whole playlist about that if you're interested in that. And now I've been recovering from the hysterectomy, and things are better. Things are better, but I don't know that everything is better yet. I'm only about 4 months post-op, so that's not that long. A lot of people say like you really start feeling much better at 6 months, and then even like at a year is when you feel like really good. So like I'm still relatively early, but I am still having back pain in general, but I am able to eat a lot more than I was before, and I'm finally actually gaining a little bit of weight for once, which is nice. I'm gonna do a full video at some point breaking down months 3 through 6 of my recovery, but right now at 4 months, the main difference that I have is that I'm able to eat enough to sustain my mind and body. I was pretty much like always starving before. I feel like I'm better able to get my thoughts together and have better capacity to socialize and engage with life in general. But the back pain is still pretty bad, and I do still have some nausea to a much less extent. So while getting my uterus removed seems to have definitely fixed some problems, I don't know that it's fixed everything, and I still probably have a journey to figure out what the heck is going on with me and how to fix it or treat it or make it less impactful in my life. Ever since the flare from bathing my cat, I've been a lot more cautious with what I do, and I ask for help a lot more often. My pain and symptoms fluctuate, but they haven't fluctuated to that extreme since then, although sometimes it's been bad, but not that bad. I'm figuring out how to navigate life within my body's limits, and that's part of what I share here on YouTube in my Life with Chronic Pain playlist, is me trying to figure out how to navigate what I can and can't do and what kind of stuff helps me be a more, not productive human, because like I don't really like the word productive, but just like makes me a more active human. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up so that it reaches other people who might also find value in it. And if you want to stay up to date on my chronic health illness journey, whatever, be sure to subscribe for future updates. And if you like this video, I'm gonna pop up 2 playlists on the screen for you to check out next. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!